just huge PlayStation icons that are now kind of not jumping ship, but they're finding a new home somewhere else. But the original article here is from Polygon. Michael McWhirter writes, Shannon Studstil leaves God of War studio Sony Santa Monica to run new Stadia dev studio. Google continues to invest in its game streaming platform Stadia with new game development studio. The new Stadia Games and Entertainment Studio, located in Playa Vista, California, will be led by Shannon Studstil. Studstil is a veteran of the gaming industry, having served more than 20 years as PlayStation developer Sony Santa Monica, most recently as Vice President of Product Development and Head of Studio. She was credited as executive producer of 2018's God of War reboot for PS4. So some of the stuff she's worked on, it's pretty nuts. So she's worked on the original God of War 2, 2005, Twisted Metal Black 2001, God of War 2, The Order 1886, Everyone's Gone to Rapture, PlayStation All-Stars, God of War Collection, and then the newest God of War reboot. So I'll turn it over to you. You know what? I don't know if you got to see this behind the scenes documentary, but Sony put out this documentary with the God of War team when they were making that last reboot. This is a couple months ago. It's called Raising Kratos. Yeah. She's in that trailer pretty heavily because she's in there talking to Corley Barlog, and they're going back and forth. They were the ones butting heads with, do we take this different direction with Kratos? What do we do to like reinvigorate the franchise? And so she was there with that whole thing, and she's had a pivotal role from the get-go. But what do you think about this? Does this scare you, or is this just kind of inevitable that these huge people in the industry and eventually move to different, companies?
Yeah, I think I've heard a lot about Shannon Studstil, even sort of before, because I've seen the God of War behind the scenes, but even before then, she's always been very media friendly, speaking in interviews. She's always been very passionate about Santa Monica and God of War in particular. I think it's a great thing for Stadia to have a producer as sort of good as her. Like you said, in the behind the scenes, you can really see how much the sort of like Corey and that respect her and respect her opinion, and for a producer I call her a producer, but obviously her role is a lot more senior than that. But for someone who's in charge of production, that's a really sort of incredible thing to be that involved with the very, very, very top decisions. So she must be pivotal to running that studio, and I think especially with God of War, that's one of those huge games that came out, had no hitches in terms of when it was released. It was just announced, came out, and was amazing. So I mean, that's got to be down to the production and how well organized that is. In terms of, do I think it's going to affect Santa Monica badly? I don't think so, just because with something like production, I'm sure she's probably been the one who's instilled all of these values into the studio in terms of how to work efficiently, how everyone communicates and everything. So obviously that's her job. So you'd imagine that she'd be leaving something behind, that like some foundations that can be built on by whoever's replacing her. Obviously it will be a loss in a lot of other ways, but I think it's I mean, I haven't heard much from Stadia since it came out, so I'm not sure how this is going to end up.
Right.
I hope it's not going to be like an Amy Hennig situation who left Naughty Dog.
Yeah.
And now she's been in charge of all these cancelled Star Wars games.
Right.
So it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see what happens with it. But yeah, I've seen on sort of Twitter that everyone's wishing her well, like Corey and all the sort of game industry veterans. So yeah, it's obviously a move she wanted to do. I mean, she's been at Santa Monica for ages now, so there's obviously a reason she wanted to go. So we'll have to see what happens with that.
I also imagine that she's kind of ready for a change, and then Google comes in. It's like, hey, are you interested? Here's a butt ton of money. And she goes, yep, I will take that job. And that's, I 100% approve of that. It's like, make your money. You're at the top. Yeah. Like you've created this, huge, accolades under your belt. It's like, take advantage of that. You have this company that's ready to dump all this money, go for it. And then she's head of the studio that she can now have total control over. It's like, you can really create and kind of have a bigger say in what's going on with a whole new studio. Go for it.
Yeah. Well, you've got to imagine that in terms of her like creative wants and needs, that she must have fulfilled those in spades. Not to say she doesn't have any more creative needs, but yeah, there must come to a point where, you know, I mean, she's been there for more than 20 years now.
Yep.
It must be time for her to sort of think, you know, I've done all of this work. Now it's time for something new, like you said, and, you know, maybe to, you know, get earn some good money. And I imagine she earned great money at Santa Monica,
Right.
but yeah, I mean, with Google obviously needing to invest heavily into Stadia, because as far as I'm aware, it's not been doing well at all. So, you know, this could be a really good thing for Google. But yeah, I'm interested to see the studio, what happens to the studio itself, because I haven't heard anything about it up until sort of this news broke.
With the Stadia studio?
So
I think
yeah.
it is a new one. I think it is like, because they've announced some like ventures, and this is a new studio is what they're claiming that's going to be you know, run by under Stadia. But yeah.
Yeah, and so is it going to be Stadia exclusive, or are they going to?
Good question. That's what I would assume. But as far as like they, you know, building a portfolio of exclusives for Stadia, because they currently don't have anything like that, so they really do need that. Stadia seems to be in trouble. I hope that, and I imagine they wouldn't put all this money into building a studio if they're going to abandon the platform, because that's a common criticism with Stadia, that Google just kind of starts these things, and after 4 years, 5 years, they give up. And I'm hoping with Stadia they're not, because they're putting money into obviously taking Shannon from PlayStation and building this new studio. They got to be in it for the long haul. Will they survive long enough? You know, I'm not sure. They have enough money, but will they keep supporting it? I'm not sure.
I suppose it's one of two ways. It's either that they're investing into this studio to give people a reason to buy a Stadia, because there's no reason to get one at the moment. Everything you can play on there, you can play on more superior consoles that give you the choice of streaming or playing offline. Right. Or the second scenario could be that maybe they are thinking that, you know, maybe going down this route of streaming isn't the right thing at the moment, so let's focus on maybe making a Stadia games and entertainment studio that develops games independently for the platforms out there.
At least working on the software, and then just kind of staying in that realm. But
because imagine a game studio that's backed by Google. I mean, that would be incredible.
Yep.
So, and if they're going to acquire talent like this, then I mean that could, either way, it's exciting, because it means that hopefully a great game is on the horizon at some point in the far future. But yeah, it's good for her.
Yeah. And that's the thing you mentioned in the far future. Yeah, we are. If they're just barely starting the studio, then we're not going to see anything for a good 4, or at least not going to come out for a good 4 or 5 years. Like, they're going to take some time.
No.
So, you know, at least we'll expect Stadia for that long. Stadia is interesting. I'm really hoping that they're in a rough launch, you know, with how they've revealed the system itself and the games they have available. I'm really hoping that they start to kind of change things up. One really big demand was offering the ability to just stream individual games and not pay for the subscription service. So, or I could pay like a Netflix model where I can pay X amount of dollars and I can just stream whatever I want that's on the service. I'm hoping that they change that model up. I think that's their way back in the race. It's just making it super easy for people to jump in, try stuff, and not have to pay for a subscription.
But and it's a win-win, I suppose, because even if they create this development studio, and then with the intention to make Stadia more of an enticing platform to play games on, because they'll have this exclusivity. If that doesn't work out, then they can just then release their exclusive game on other platforms and make their money that way. I mean, I can't imagine Google are doing this to make money. I mean, I'm sure that they make plenty from elsewhere. It's probably just a way to, I don't even know. I don't know how these mega corporations think about these kind of choices, because they can't be wanting to do it so that they make more money, because, you know, Google are already established and they already make billions and billions and billions of dollars. So I don't know, maybe it's an itch that some of the executives have that they want to just get into to see why not. So I don't know. Time will tell, but it's a bold move, definitely.
Yeah. I wonder if it's also like long term. They're not going to make money at all immediately. But it's more like they're setting up to potentially make a lot more money down the line. They're going to lose money now to possibly make a lot more money down the line. And I think a lot of it comes down to shareholders. They're always like, that's the big thing on their back. It's always like making sure they have something to show. Like, what are you doing this year? Well, we're doing this, that, and this thing. They kind of have to perform. But yeah, we'll see what happens with there. I'm very interested to see, going back to that Santa Monica Sony studio, what happens with God of War. Are we going to see anything from them soon? A teaser at all? Like, or do they really have to? Should they wait before we tease anything of a new God of War, sequel to that reboot?
Yeah. I'm very excited about that.
Oh yeah. You mentioned you watched that documentary. I suggest everyone go watch it. It's really fucking dope. It's called Raising Kratos.
Yeah.
And they talk about the rough time they had with deciding, first of all, like how to take the God of War franchise in a different direction, but also working on the mechanics themselves and stuff not working and launching and having to push the game and like just internal, struggle. It's really, really good.